The Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's the Full Melt Show.
It's recreational marijuana. I want to go to Juan Carlos Lopez.
Thank you, Anderson. Senator Sanders, right here in Nevada, there will be a measure to legalize recreational marijuana on the 2016 ballot. You said you smoked marijuana twice, didn't quite work for you. If you were a Nevada resident, how would you vote?
I suspect I would vote yes. And I would vote yes because I am seeing in this country too many lives being destroyed for nonviolent offenses. We have a criminal justice system that lets CEOs on Wall Street walk away, and yet we are imprisoning or giving jail sentences to young people who are smoking marijuana. I think we have to think through this war on drugs, which has done an enormous amount of damage. We need to rethink our criminal justice system, and we've got a lot of work to do in that area.
Secretary Clinton, you told Christiana Amanpour you didn't smoke pot when you were young, and you're not going to start now. When asked about legalizing recreational marijuana, you told her, let's wait and see how it plays out in Colorado and Washington. It's been more than a year since you said that. Are you ready to take a position tonight?
No. I think that we have the opportunity through the states that are pursuing recreational marijuana to find out a lot more than we know today.
Boo!
I do support the use of medical marijuana, and I think even there we need to do a lot more research so that we know exactly how we're going to help people for whom medical marijuana provides relief. So I think we're just at the beginning, but I agree completely with the idea that we have got to stop imprisoning people who use marijuana. Therefore, we need more states, cities, and the federal government to begin to address this so that we don't have this terrible result that Senator Sanders was talking about, where we have a huge population in our prisons for nonviolent, low-level offenses that are primarily due to marijuana.
So are you high? What are you talking about?
It's the Full Melt.
Yes?
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
Hey, welcome back live to the PetPain.com studios for another full-hour edition of the Full Melt Show, where today and every day we talk cannabis policy, news, information, lifestyle, medical marijuana, and hemp. If it's in one of those categories, you can be sure that we're interested in talking about this on this program. Now, admittedly, being that it's harvest season, I mean, it is harvest season. Here in Michigan, we're getting the first in this layer of the strata, latitude. We're getting our first freeze, at least a good indication of the first freeze in like the mid-Michigan area. We're in suburban Detroit. And so that first freeze comes, and that's the indication that harvest must go down. If you're going to have a nice, healthy, bountiful outdoor harvest and you let it freeze, well, it's okay. It's not going to cause any problem overall, I guess, with what you ended up with, except that you can't let it stay up now. It's got to come down. If you let it stay up, it's susceptible to all kinds of stuff after the freeze and high degradation. I mean, it's just going to degrade like crazy. So it's got to come down. And I'd love to talk some more about growing both indoors and out, because since it's harvest season, I'm going to try and get somebody on tomorrow to talk about the fall harvest. People who are experienced and familiar, maybe we'll get a Mr. and Mrs. X on or somebody anonymously talking about their outdoor grow. Unless you're out in the, western states or, I don't think you can grow it outdoors in D.C. I think you'd have a hard time growing it outdoors and still keeping it in D.C., assuming that you were able to or allowed to do that. I don't think you are. I think you can grow it inside there, but I think outdoors is off limits. So when you're talking about in the states where it is legal to grow it, I think Colorado and Washington and Oregon and Alaska. And to some degree, some tolerance has been made, I guess, in California for medical patients with outdoor grows. I mean, there's huge outdoor grows happening in California that are tolerated all the time. I just think that they're much more susceptible to being raided or taken somehow. It's bothersome. It shouldn't be that way. But it doesn't happen just with cannabis. It could be something as stupid as apples. I know it's harvest season, and so all the orchards are full here in the northern part of the United States of a bounty of harvested apples. I mean, and some of them are still hanging on the trees. I'll tell you what, though, orchard season's over after the freeze. The freeze happens, and it's pretty much done. It's all got to come down, and then you better get your cider and donuts and get it over with, because you're not going to go on a U-pick to the orchard after a freeze. They got to come down. They're going to take them down before they get frozen, because apples you don't want to freeze. So what I'm saying is, I'm going the long way around saying, is that I'd love to talk some more about harvesting, but I can't do it right this second because there's just all this meat on the plate over presidential politics. You can't do much of anything with cannabis. You can't get around the prohibition issue with a presidential cycle coming online. And you haven't been bombarded yet. You're not going to be sick yet of the presidential campaign commercials because they're all holding their cash to pull the trigger after the initial nominations get made. So you got to get the nomination made for the and the acceptance of the race in both parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. And once you have not only a front runner, but there's been actually an election squaring that down to who you want to be for president. Well, then you're going to see a shitload of money getting dumped into this campaign process, mostly by outsiders. Because you remember, Donald Trump, he's going to spend money, but it's going to be his money mostly. And then you're going to have some people maybe that have PAC money that have put together to support people like Trump. It's not going to be the people that supported the former Bush dynasty, though. It's not going to be the David Kochs of the world or the Koch brothers of the world. It might be, I don't know. I've always considered Warren Buffett an amazing thinker. I don't know exactly how he's politically aligned. I know he's monetarily aligned. That generally makes Republicans out of people, but... And you'll see it, too. You'll see people growing up as Democrats saying, I need the government cheese. I need a little bit of help to get up out of this rut. I'm in the frickin' ghetto. I got to get up. Can you help me out with some food? Maybe some assistance for housing or something while I got this crappy-ass job that isn't paying anything. And pull up my bootstraps and get up out of this community, move on to a bigger, better career in a better space, in a better place. And many of them are doing that in the cannabis community today. As states come on board. But my point is bigger that then they end up becoming, once they do, if they have some success, if you're one of those people in America who strikes it rich with the American dream and you end up with a successful business and you look at your life and you go, I'm happy, I'm satisfied. Of course, I'm still striving to get better and make more. Every businessman does. It's part of the entrepreneurial American spirit, I suppose. But once you've gone down that lane, now you want to start protecting your money, and you don't want to tax so much, so you want to pay for less government cheese. And so then when you become a Republican, then you're like, no, screw those people that need the money. Warren Buffett doesn't seem to be one of them. Warren Buffett seems to be more democratically aligned, but he's a money guy, which is a little unusual. Like I said, the guys who were poor before, when they were poor, they were all Democrats. They got some money in their pockets, and now they're like, no, we're Republicans now. And I don't care which side of the fence you're on. I love Democrats and Republicans alike. You're my American brother and sister before you're some, political party. I would fight on a line for you if they'd allow me in the military. If I would shoot a gun against somebody who was trying to kill you or me or our friends in our nation. I mean, that's patriotism, right? Why do we got to make enemies of each other? If we can agree on different stuff, we're still going to shoot the guy across, if we have to, if we came down to that, we're still going to defend our borders and, keep ourselves safe. I would protect you despite the fact that I hate your guts because, I don't like what you, and I don't hate your guts. I just don't like what you think about life. You know, I might have a different political alignment. I could be as opposed to you diametrically on politics as possible, and I'm still going to come to your aid and rescue if you need some help and assistance. Unless you're just a, loudmouth jackass who would probably throw a rock at me despite the fact that I was offering you assistance because you don't like my political point of view. And if you're one of those guys, screw you. If you don't want my help, starve to death or whatever the case is. I don't care. What I'm saying is that, we're Americans before we're political parties, and we should stick together along that cause. So ultimately, I like people like Warren Buffett because he's like, look, I know I got a lot of money, but I'm paying the same amount of taxes or less than my secretary. And this is the way it is in America. Politics have been corrupted by cash. And that Citizens United decision, that's just made it so much worse. I mean, the last cycle was bad, but this cycle is going to be aberrant. If you thought you were poisoned by the messaging before to get you to sway to some side, it's not even most of us that are trying to be. They're trying to sway. They're trying to sway those, I guess what you call the blue or the red Democrats. You know what I mean? The ones who are purple, the ones who, the ones that can be swayed to either side depending on their fancy. The independents, so to speak. That's the crowd that they always end up trying to swing. But all of us got to listen to the BS while it's going down. I'm saying you can't have that conversation in this environment without talking about marijuana. And I was correct. I told you last night that this would be on this program, that this would be part of the messaging here in the presidential debate. I didn't say it last night. I said it the night before. We weren't on the air last night. I'll tell you that story later. But I told you I'd come back with audio from that presidential debate. It started immediately after we got off the air. They didn't talk about it until the last 15 minutes of conversation, and it only encompassed a grand total of 2 minutes, including the questions, only being posed to two of the many Democrats up on the stage. You heard them. They were Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. I suppose the most relevant ones to ask this question because they're the most likely to be a forerunner in the race. I mean, Hillary's there. Sanders is right behind her. We'll see what happens in the long run as to who gets nominated. But the important part is what they have to say about this. And Hillary had much to say about nothing. She had nothing to say. She still takes this, wait and see position, the safe zone. And I'm sorry, Hillary, that's not the route to president. You can't be standing mamby-pamby on the fence and taking the safe territory and not taking a position or a stance on this. It's been too long. Remember, you used to be not running, but now you're running. You got to take a stance on this crap, and it can't be let's wait and see. The public has no appetite for that bullshit.
You're getting the full melt.
Hello, boys and ghouls. Your old friend the Crypt Keeper here with a Pottober News Bulletin. Ghoulies and creepies gather thee round for a map to patience partying down. As the days grow shorter to the end of month 10, it's time to gather, friend among friend. Michigan card holders, admission is free to the X on the map dubbed Hall Deboween. This lure of free fun is perfectly true, and this is the invite. Yes, that means you. The vendors and speakers this day are just ghosts, exchanged for free entry, free food, and a toast. Asunder our differences this Hallows Eve, so we may bring fire to glorious weed. You may light up and your neighbor may match it. The smoke in the air is to bury the hatchet. The contests you enter are all also free. Considerable prizes for the winners there'll be. Can of meds are welcome. It's alcohol free. The Jam Shack, Mount Morris, from 7 till 3.
Deboween sponsors include Depot Town of Ypsilanti, Sweetly, Flint, Harborside, Ann Arbor, Third Coast, Ypsilanti, Dank Team, Flint, Two Guys in a Grow Shop, Burton, Florida Bob's Place, Puff and Stuff of Lansing, Happy Buddha, Lansing, The Spot, Kalamazoo, Compassion Club US of Grand Rapids, Iron Labs, Walled Lake, Herbal Solutions, Ypsilanti, Bio Cultivation, The Herbal Center of Mount Morris, IDK Farms, Kurtz Leach and Associates of Birmingham, Act Labs, Lansing, Bill Clark Bash Investments, Burton, Hybrid Dot Life Magazine, Once Bitten, Twice Baked, Lush Lighting in Niles, Cannabis Council, Detroit, Nichols Law Firm, East Lansing, The Green Rock Cafe, Flint, Urban Garden Supply, Flint, also the Marijuana Ranch, Happy Harvesters, The Full Melt Show, Lindy's Bed, Matty Eddie's, Lexico Case, Jaxica Farm, and BDT Hazel Park.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Canalock.com. Visit Canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571. Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki.
Sacred Elements.
Raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Door Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570.
Don't miss the first ever cannabis competition this year as the prize contest moved from Amsterdam to Jamaica. That's right, it's all Jamaican fun now with the big cup competition in Negril this November. Get your best travel accommodations now at JamaicaPot.com. Pack your beach bong and swimsuit and party down at the warm sandy beaches of Negril, Jamaica for the first ever big cannabis event this year. Do it in style or come have fun on a budget. Best travel prices now at JamaicaPot.com. That's JamaicaPot.com.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release. We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade. You got this.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
And it's going to remind you that coming up in a little while during the program, I want to give you something from the They Just Don't Get It file. Got 2 stories from the They Just Don't Get It file tonight. If you want to subscribe to the program, it's really easy to do that with iTunes. The program is available at apple.com's iTunes. If you're an iTunes guy, or if you got an iPod, or any of the iDevices, any iOS device, you can listen to the program first off on that iOS device, and then you can also just download the program. Really easy to do. Every day it'll end up in your iPod folder, and all you got to, or your podcast folder. And all you got to do is go to thefullmelt.com, click on the iTunes link, and subscribe. That's simple. Really easy to do. So listen, we were talking about presidential politics on pot. The question is, do you have something to say? And actually Bernie Sanders had something to say. Hillary Clinton had something to say, too, but it was a lot of saying nothing, wasn't it? Oh, I'm not ready to take a position. Well, what the hell are you doing standing up there being president for? Trying to be president. I mean, honestly, if I was the moderator, if I was, well, I guess the question wasn't asked by the moderator. The question was asked by another reporter from CNN, or another reporter, period, I guess. I think there was a CNN reporter, though. But, maybe it would have been the responsibility of the moderator to say, look, and by the way, the moderator of the Democratic presidential debate is the guy that says, "Are you high?" at the very beginning of the show. He's the one that says, "Are you high? What are you talking about?" That's Anderson Cooper. I'll ask you that question later on as part of a quiz. If you can identify that guy, Anderson Cooper, at the beginning, because I'll say who at the beginning of the show says that. If you can say that, I'll give you a free Canalock bag, a 1 ounce, $50 value Canalock no smell bag. Find Canalock products at nosmell.com. Also at Canalock.com. I guess it would be easier just to get the Canalock product at Canalock.com. So, because there's a number of other no-smell products that aren't necessarily just cannabis-related. It was just smart that they figured a no-smell product might be good for the cannabis industry. This is not a piece of plastic. This is a cloth, reusable, double-sealed, military-grade material. It's the same stuff, the barrier that they use is the same stuff they use in chemical warfare suits. Nothing's going to pass through it, including smells. Anyway, so I'll quiz you on that. We'll do that on Friday. If you know the answer to that question on Friday, and you're able to call and give us that answer, the first person to give us that answer will get the Cannalock Bag 2. And look for more contests and prizing coming up on the program. So I wanted to talk about this business with presidential politics in this way. The people at PolitiFact started talking about this after that debate happened. And, basically what they said was, what is making the noise up there? There's something, I gotta click a couple things off here. I can't stand the little ding-dings and stuff. I don't know it's coming from it's coming from the browser. But there's no other way to get rid of that noise without closing other tabs on the browser, and now they're closed. So, this is what PolitiFact.com has to say. Basically they outlined the introduction of those two candidates and what they had, that they had some things to say. And you heard what they had to say at the front. I'll just reiterate what was said. Sanders was asked late in the debate, and I tell you, it was the last 15 minutes of the debate where the question was posed. So you can see on the bigger scale of things where CNN ranks this question. It's way down on the scale that it requires to be in the last 15 minutes of a 2.5-hour show. So it was 9:15, I think. Wait a minute. No. Yeah, it was 9:15. No, 10:15. It was 10:15 when they finally asked this question. Show ends at 10:30. It started at 8. If you were a Nevada resident and had to vote on the question of legalizing recreational marijuana, this question being posed to Senator Sanders, would you vote yes? And he answered in this way: I suspect I would vote yes. And I would vote yes because I'm seeing in this country too many lives being destroyed for nonviolent offenses. We have a criminal justice system that lets CEOs on Wall Street walk away, yet we're imprisoning or giving jail sentences to young people who are smoking marijuana. I think we have to think through this war on drugs. A moment later, Sanders' rival for the nomination, Hillary Clinton, provided rhetorical support for Sanders' claim, saying, I agree completely with the idea that we've got to stop imprisoning people who use marijuana. But is it true that Sanders, as Sanders put it, the United States is, quote, imprisoning people or giving jail sentences to young people who are smoking marijuana, end quote? We decided to take a closer look. So let's just see where PolitiFact stands on this issue. Does PolitiFact have the knowledge that I do inside the cannabis industry? Because, I don't know. We'll find out if we're aligned in thinking or not as we progress. What the figures show is that possession itself isn't really usually enough to land someone in jail. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, many times that may be the case, but it also many times may not be the case. So I'm just going to fact check PolitiFact. Simple marijuana possession has in this state for many, many decades been an imprisonable offense. It's something they can take you to jail on right now. Now, that being said, they don't do that so much anymore because they don't know for sure that it's marijuana. And, having a positive field test for marijuana is a little expensive. So the cheapest way around still putting you in jail about this is to give you a citation. It is a misdemeanor. Misdemeanors in this state have a maximum jail sentence attached of 93 days. Misdemeanors can be invented by the state or by local ordinance in local jurisdictions only. Those local jurisdictions can only write offenses as local laws, local ordinances, that have a maximum penalty of a misdemeanor offense. They can't create felony offenses at the ordinance level, at the local government level. Felonies are only created at the state or at the federal level. So, but a misdemeanor in this state, the maximum punishment for any misdemeanor is 93 days and or some fine, generally. And the fine is generally in the $1,000 neighborhood. But when you get above a certain weight level, it's no longer a misdemeanor. It is now considered a felony. I don't know in this state where that leverage is. I don't know where that threshold is. I know that at some point in the state's lifetime, just historically recounting news, that it used to be back before the Engler administration, before the Governor John Engler was the governor, because during his administration, they changed it from the old system where you could have a joint or a truckload and possession was still possession of cannabis. The Engler administration persisted through late 80s, early 90s, if memory serves. I think he was a two-term governor. He was. During the Engler administration, they changed it to a graduated penalty. And I'm telling you all that to say this. Each one of those levels, even at the lowest level, none of them is lighter than a misdemeanor. None of them is a civil infraction. They're all misdemeanors at minimum. And every single one of those gets a jail time of up to 93 days for the offense. If the guidelines, the sentencing guidelines, and your history allow for it. So there is a first-time drug offenders law here called it's a 7411 is what they call it. That's the code 7411. I think it's 741.1. I don't know. It's called a 7411. And the 7411 says, look, this is a first-time drug offender. And so we're going to give you a way out. You finish your probation. We're not going to give you a jail sentence. Or if you had some jail incarceration up until you had to make a plea or something before you bonded out, that would be time served. But we're not going to give you a sentence of jail per se. We're going to forego that and also keep your record clean because as long as you finish your probation and don't reoffend within a certain period of time, we're going to give you a free pass. In other words, you pay your fines, you finish your probation without any issues, you don't have a reoffense in a certain period of time, and we're going to expunge the record. So the public record is no longer seen by the public. It is now suppressed, and only the courts and police can see that record. However, that being said, there is nothing preventing them and hasn't prevented them, because I can give you an instance where I was jailed for and I pulled that 7411 at the time. I used that 7411 as a youngster. I think I was around 21, 22, somewhere in that neighborhood. I got caught. I got busted with some weed, but it was just a roach, just a tiny roach. We were smoking some weed in a car that was in the overflow section of a bowling alley, just being stupid kids. The local city police, their normal patrol were driving by, saw us in that crowded parking lot in the car, and decided to check us out. So they swiveled around and pulled up behind us and got out and tapped on the window because they blocked us in. Now, that's not something you're allowed to do. I think that was stepping over the bounds of police. You can't block somebody in. Nobody's under arrest. You can't do that. So then they came up to the windows, and of course they smelled the pot, and they caught us with the pot. So I swallowed. I took the pot wrap because it was my marijuana. I was with somebody else, but it was just a roach. They just found us with a roach. But so they gave me a ticket for that. They threatened us with the jail. Oh, we're going to take you to jail. Da 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 da. You got any more? Where'd you get it from? The third-degree grill, the lights in the face, all that stuff. This was in the middle of the day. Middle of the afternoon, early afternoon. Anyway, so they ended up giving me a ticket, and I didn't do anything with that ticket. I mean, actually, he didn't give me a ticket. They did not issue a citation, as it were. What they did was and the reason I started this story in the first place is because what they'll do is take your cannabis, in this state anyways, before they'll actually charge you. They will send the cannabis off to the laboratory, which will come back with a, presumptive test positive for cannabis, if that's indeed what it was. Now, once they got those lab results back, then what? Well, now they're going to put a warrant out for your arrest. So the next time they bump into you, they're going to arrest you for cannabis possession. That's how they did it with me. Now, don't you tell me, as a first offender, I was hauled off to jail. And I was working 2 jobs at the time. I was a young guy going to school and working 2 different jobs at radio stations, in fact. I was coming back from one radio station. Actually, I worked 2 full-time jobs. I'd go sign off the air at one station, literally sign the station off, and then run and do the overnight shift in Lansing. And it was on return trip from that Lansing affair where I decided I was going to do a little turnaround into I was going to illegally use the turnaround in the expressway to go to a rest area because I needed to pull over and sleep. I had just exhausted myself. And when I pulled into that rest turnaround, the state police were already behind me. I didn't see them, or I probably wouldn't have pulled over. And so when I got into the U-turn round, they came up behind me and pulled our lights on and da-da-da-da-da. They let me pull up into the rest area so they didn't get to get my car towed, but they were going to arrest me for my now warrant for cannabis. First offense. I was arrested, hauled from the Ingham County line to the Livingston County line, where the Livingston County police picked me up and hauled me off and put me in jail, where I remained until I could find somebody who would come up and post bond. Not bail, bond. Because you haven't seen the judge yet. The judge would probably let me out on PR bond. But since I don't want to wait until Monday, because this was like a Friday or something, I went in on Friday, I had to find somebody that would come and bail me out or bond me out. So somebody came down, gave me the bond money, got me out. I repaid them. And but I went to jail about this. I was there for a day or so, a day and a half or whatever. Yeah, I wasn't under a sentence, but I was still put in jail for a substance. Just cannabis. Not even a whole joint. Not even a whole gram. It was probably like a half a gram of weed or less. So don't tell me, Politico, that we don't put people in jail. We don't put young people in jail over pot. It's nonsense. You clearly do. We'll get back to the rest of Politico's prisoner data. PolitiFact, not Politico. Oh, God. See, now I'm going to get sued by Politico. PolitiFacts.com and their prisoner data coming back on the other side of the break. Don't go away. It's the Full Melt Show.
You're getting the Full Melt.
Get ready, let's go. Hey, na, 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 na. Oh, hey, now, let's go. Yeah, I've got style. I'll make it wild. I'll change it up and switch it up so versatile. I'll be myself and I'm gonna let everybody know.
We have the latest styles to mix it and mash it. So make it your own and bend the trend. JCPenney. When it fits, you feel it. During the JCPenney Back to School Hot Sale, get an extra $10 off when you spend $25 or more with coupon. Nike, Converse, Levi's, and other exclusions apply.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release. We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade, you got this.
Don't miss the first ever cannabis competition this year as the prize contest moved from Amsterdam to Jamaica. That's right, it's all Jamaican fun now with the Big Cup competition in Negril this November. Get your best travel accommodations now at JamaicaPot.com. Pack your beach bong and swimsuit and party down at the warm sandy beaches of Negril, Jamaica for the first ever big cannabis event this year. Do it in style or come have fun on a budget. Best travel prices now at JamaicaPot.com. That's JamaicaPot.com.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit PetPain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. PetPain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
We ask people to tell us something that happened in their past and something that might happen in their future. The good things were put on yellow magnets and the bad ones on blue. The results show the past was a pretty even mix of good and bad, yet the future was almost all good things. Now that you've seen the results of this experiment, what does it mean to you?
We all want to think about positive stuff.
Realistically, there will be downtimes.
It's great to think optimistically, but let's plan for whatever the future might bring.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. All right, so we're talking about PolitiFacts.com and what they have to say about the Justice Department's records on marijuana. And they're checking the facts on these questions as put to Sanders and Clinton during the presidential nomination debate for the Democratic Party on CNN 2 nights ago. And I just told you that they said the figures show the possession itself isn't usually enough to land somebody in jail. And I just gave you a statistic of my own that says that that's not true. I did land in jail. I didn't land in prison. But let's differentiate the difference between jail and prison. They are still incarceration. It's still, you're a caged human being. I mean, either event, whether you're in jail or prison, you're still in the jail population, the prison population. You're still incarcerated. Rules are a little different. The circumstances, maybe the length of your duration might be different, but that is what differentiates between jail and prison is length of stay. Let's say for argument, that marijuana possession charge that I talked to you about in Livingston County in Michigan, some 20 plus, 30 plus years ago. It's 30 plus years ago. Don't let me lie to you. That charge is something that if it were an offense that I could land in prison for. And I'm just admitting right straight up that I can't go to prison for that charge. It's a misdemeanor. The maximum sentence, I've already told you, is 93 days. In order for me to end up in prison, that charge would have to be a felony, and the maximum prison time that I had to be sentenced to had to exceed 1 year. If it was a felony and it was less than a year, and they only sentenced me to, say, 10 months, well, I'm going to do that 10 months in the county jail. That's where they put people of less than 1 year's sentences, in the county jail. At least that's how they do it here. If you're going to go away for anything longer than that, it's going to be to prison, because the county jails don't have the room for you. They're already extended to maximum capacity for other nonviolent crimes like, being a deadbeat parent, mostly deadbeat fathers. Don't get me going on the disparity between men and women like that. So who might this be? I'm going to take this call off air because I don't know who it is. Hello? Hello? I think you have a wrong number. Who's calling? Yeah. Abby's a bitch. I don't know who she is, but she's calling from a number that I don't believe is an accurate number. You know what I'm going to do? I hate doing this. I'm doing this on air because it bugs me. We'll get back to this story in a second. This, I believe, is one of those telemarketer people. You ever get a call from a telemarketer person, and the telemarketer person, the phone reports that it's from a local place, but if you try to call the phone number back, and let's just do this live on the air. Well, I better not, in case it is a business. I don't want to expose who they are. But I'm just going to call and see, and then if it does, see, I think they're hiding their number. I think they're pulling a whammy, which should be illegal, but it's not, I don't think. Let me just see. Yeah, see, it's Heartland. and it doesn't identify who they are. I hate it when they do that, though. I mean, first off, I normally don't answer these calls on the air. But just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to do it because I can't stand people like this, especially when they hide their number, because I know these people are calling. Yeah, see, they're not going to answer. They're not going to answer that phone number, see? Whatever it is, they wanted to sell me something or trick me about something, ask for personal information somehow. But they'll call from a number that you can't reach them back at because it's not an anonymous call. See, if they know that if they blocked the location, they wouldn't get anybody answering. So they put a number up, but it's not a working number. It's a lie. It's just a fake empty number that nobody's using. And that's the number that they hook to the caller ID, and I think it should be illegal to do any of that kind of calling. I think if you're going to employ a system like caller ID, it's either functional or it's not, but you can't have an alternate option of lying. Otherwise, what's the point in paying for the caller ID system or its identification? I remember when they first came back out with that caller ID, you had to go buy fancy special equipment. It was expensive. You had to order it as an extra feature on your phones. Now it just comes standard. Everybody just uses it. But now it's abused. It's misused because it's not who they say it is, and it's not a blocked call. It's somebody lying about who they are. And if you try to call them back, they won't tell you who they are. You can't reach them, or in this case, they won't answer the effing phone. So that's why I called that lady a bitch when she called, because I said, who is this? She's like, this is so-and-so. And I'm like, yeah, so-and-so's a bitch, because you're calling to try and telemarket something to me, and you got no business at it, especially at this hour of the night. Isn't it past telemarketer hours? It clearly is. You're not supposed to call people and telemarket to them after 7 o'clock at night, for crying out loud. They're breaking all the rules. That's why they don't want you to know who they are, so you can't turn them in for breaking the frickin' rules. Okay, so back to the presidential thing. PolitiFact.com also goes on to say in this article, in this story, that rather those sentenced to prison for marijuana offenses were typically found to be committing crimes more serious than just possessing marijuana or smoking it, as Sanders put it. Often this means selling it or trafficking it. So while that statement is true, to go beyond that, let's just examine a little bit how prosecutors and police play the game of charging you. Because they might have zero evidence that you're trafficking anything anywhere. But the fact that you have a decent quantity, that possession size alone would give them access to make the accusation, what are you doing with all that weed? You have to be selling it somewhere, don't you? There's no reason you would have that much of it unless you were trying to sell it. And so they're going to charge you with, even though there's no evidence to support it other than its own presence, the possession itself, they're going to charge you a duplicate charge of trafficking in cannabis or conspiracy to traffic in cannabis. They can get you on that because they know you got it from somebody, and it was in that getting it from somebody that was the conspiracy to traffic it. They're making the allegation you're going to sell it to somebody. You've never sold anything to anybody. The mere possession alone will get you both charges. Now, let's say let's say you had, say, 50 pounds of marijuana. Just pulling a number out of my ass. Let's say that number was 50 pounds. Because that way you can't argue. 6 pounds, you might say, hey, I was just keeping, I only get it every couple of years. You could make that argument. This will last me a couple of years. If you wanted to say it was for your own use, if you wanted to beat the trafficking charge, which, remember, I'm saying, making the claim here that you never sold to anybody, therefore the police, because you never have sold to anybody, you don't have any evidence that you sold it to anybody, they're simply going to mount the allegation that you've got the extra cannabis because you're going to sell it. And what they're calling extra is weight beyond what they would see as usable by one person. And there's no figure. They would just be pulling that figure out of their ass as well. So they could make this claim above an ounce. Look, who possibly needs more than an ounce? An ounce? How long will an ounce of marijuana last you at the rate at which you smoke it? Well, I don't know, maybe a month. So now you've got 5 ounces or 10 ounces or a pound. Well, that'll make it last a year. Well, but because they're individually bagged, see, the reason that you got them individually bagged is because they're different kinds. You like to switch from one to the other so you don't get used to one and, become immune to it, so to speak. You could switch off and maintain your level of, if you're using it for medical purposes, your medical use. If you're using it for recreational purposes, for the purpose of maintaining the level of high that you started with. But the mere fact that those individual ounces were packaged month by month for the entire year, again, will get you charged with trafficking. Oh, they're individually 1 ounce bag packaged, so they have to be for sale in 1 ounce. You must be selling them to people by the ounce. And so that would make us, in our eyes, you're a high-level distributor, because low-level distributors would only, they're going to buy the ounce and sell it in quarters or eighths. But so you're selling them the ounce, so you're like not the kingpin, because he's this guy above you, and there's probably a guy above him. But you're a mid-level trafficker. That's what they target you as, just by allegation alone. No proof, nothing behind it other than the mere amount of weight and the way in which you purchased it. Because, see, they want to spin it around on you. You bought it in 1 ounce bags because that's how they were packaged. But now you're taking it back to where you're going to use it, and somebody catches you with it, and now they're going to say, no, it's packaged individually because you were going to sell it. It's the same set of circumstances, it's just viewed from a different angle, with an allegation attached to one of those angles, with zero fact behind it. I'm just painting a picture. Let's just assume all these are unequivocal facts. These are all accurate facts. Let's just assume what I'm saying is telling an accurate story. The prosecutor's going to go back and say, look, let's just say for the possession and the distribution charge, or the trafficking charge, or the conspiracy charge, or maybe all three, maybe the maximum sentence you could get concurrently for all three of them is, say, let's just pull a number again out of my ass. Let's just say it's 10 years. That's the maximum you could get. And maybe you've got a prior offense somewhere, so they're going to try and lean you towards the maximum. So they say, look, we're going to recommend, and that's just a recommendation, and maybe it'd be a binding recommendation if you make a plea agreement. So we're going to have a binding recommendation to the judge that the sentence be 3 months. We're going to give you 3 months. It's going to be 90 days. You're going to spend it in the county jail. You might get a little good time there. You won't get it at the state level so much, probably. I don't know, whatever. But we're going to put you there, and then, but you got to plead guilty to all three of these felonies. See. We're not going to give you the 10 years, but we're just going to give you the 3 months, or maybe even 6 months, whatever the hell it is. They're going to offer that to you because, they put together such a big package of time behind bars. You feel like, oh, God, what are the chances if I roll the dice and lose? I might go to jail for 10 years. It was just possession. I went to prison. F you.
You're getting the full melt.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn. Eager to succeed. Eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road. Take care when passing. And always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
Imagine a world where patients can use marijuana like any other medicine. The Marijuana Patients Organization challenges the status quo by helping our neighbors to enjoy a better quality of life. Visit the MPO at marijuanapatients.org and enjoy informative articles, engaging debates, and information about treatments, doctors, and dispensaries in your area. Over 50,000 people have registered at marijuanapatients.org since 2010. Join us at the Marijuana Patients Organization today. marijuanapatients.org.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pets.
Hello, boys and ghouls. Your old friend the Crypt Keeper here with a Pottober News Bulletin. Ghoulies and creepies gathered around for a map to patients partying down. As the days grow shorter to the end of month 10, it's time to gather, friend among friend. Michigan card holders, admission is free to the X on the map dubbed Hall Deboween. This lure of free fun is perfectly true, and this is the invite. Yes, that means you. The vendors and speakers this day are just ghosts, exchanged for free entry, free food, and a toast. Asunder our differences this Hallows Eve, so we may bring fire to glorious weed. You may light up and your neighbor may match it. The smoke in the air is to bury the hatchet. The contests you enter are all also free. Considerable prizes for the winners there'll be. Can of meds are welcome. It's alcohol free. The Jam Shack, Mount Morris, from 7 till 3.
Deboween sponsors include Depot Town of Ypsilanti, It's Weekly, Flint, Harborside, Ann Arbor, Third Coast, Ypsilanti, Dank Team, Flint, Two Guys in a Grow Shop, Burton, Florida Bob's Place, Puff and Stuff of Lansing, Happy Buddha, Lansing, The Spot, Kalamazoo, Compassion Club US of Grand Rapids, Iron Labs, Walled Lake, Herbal Solutions, Ypsilanti, Bio Cultivation, The Herbal Center of Mount Morris, IDK Farms, Kurtz Leach and Associates of Birmingham, Act Labs, Lansing, Bill Clark Bash Investments, Burton, Hybrid Life Magazine, Once Bitten, Twice Baked, Lush Lighting in Niles, Cannabis Council, Detroit, Nichols Law Firm, East Lansing, The Green Rock Cafe, Flint, Urban Garden Supply, Flint, also the Marijuana Ranch, Happy Harvesters, The Full Melt Show, Lindy's Bed, Matty Eddie, Flex Cocaine, Jaxica Farm, and BDT Hazel Park.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio Show.
I gave up on time, just like you said you would.
Hey, so the Justice Department periodically carries out surveys of inmates in state and federal correctional facilities, according to PolitiFact.com, the last of which was from 2004. According to this study, only about 0.3% of state prison inmates were there because of marijuana possession alone without more serious charges. Meanwhile, the statistics for federal inmates paint a similar picture, the data showing among the roughly 67,600 offenders sentenced to prison in federal criminal cases between October 1st, 2011 and September 30th of 2012. I'm just going to say that number again. 67,600 offenders sentenced to prison federally in criminal cases between October of 2011 and September of 2012. That's the 1 year period. Only 28 of them were incarcerated on drug possession charges alone. Roughly 0.04% of all incarcerations. And that includes all drugs, not just marijuana. Looked at another way, the same report found that 99.9% of those sentenced to federal prison for any drug-related crime during that year-long period were sent to prison for something more serious than simple possession. Drug policy experts they contacted agreed that imprisonment for marijuana possession by itself is rare. He's wrong, said Jonathan P. Calkins, a public policy professor and drug policy specialist at Carnegie Mellon University's Hines College. Basically, no one goes to prison just because they use marijuana. The vast majority of time, the people who are in jail for marijuana possession also have other things that are part of their record. Oh, just skirt behind that. Nancy G. Levine, director of the Justice Policy Center of the Urban Institute, agreed. Very, very few people are incarcerated for low quantities of marijuana possession, she said. And Alan St. Pierre, executive director of the pro-marijuana legalization group NORML, concurs, calling Sanders' claim a tad off. Where is this coming from? I'm getting dungs on here, and it's driving me nuts. Oh, there's got to be. I see what it is. Oh, I see what it is. There's other stuff open here, a whole bunch of it. Oh, it's going down. It's all going down. Yeah, I don't know about. I hope I didn't just take myself off the air. NORML and other groups have estimated that there are about 50,000 to 110,000 cannabis-only offenders who are in prison in the United States, yet most, but not all of those incarcerated on marijuana charges are there for cultivation, sales, or trafficking, he said. So they get you on the trafficking based on the amount you have alone in many cases. So you can say that it's for trafficking, but it's just for possession because there was no evidence of trafficking. That's my argument. If the evidence of trafficking is in the weight alone, it is not a case, in my opinion. You've got to have something. We bought something. We saw something. Here's some pop that came from your place. It's the same weed. Something, some kind of connection, some nexus between A and B. Some caveats. Oh, now they're going to carve out the exclusions. Here's where, our rules don't apply. All this said, we should make a few points. Experts say different jurisdictions may have divergent standards and thresholds in charging defendants for marijuana possession. It sounds like legalese, doesn't it? Some states even consider passing around a joint at a party to be considered distributing, said Douglas Berman, an Ohio State University law professor. That's what I'm saying. Look, I was not selling or trafficking weed, but you called it distributing because we were passing a joint in a circle. Give me an effing break. In addition, the statistics we cited above do not include people sent temporarily to jail, potentially a much larger population than those serving sentences in prison. The jail population could include people who have violated probation for testing positive for marijuana or for failing to pay a fine for marijuana possession. You're still in frickin' jail over pot, aren't you? Said Bill Piper, the director of the National Affairs for the Drug Policy Alliance. Marijuana arrests. As it happens, Sanders might have been on safer ground and he'd stuck to citing arrests for marijuana possession rather than prison time. St. Pierre said the most recent FBI data shows that of the roughly 700,000 arrests for marijuana-related charges in 2014, I'll say that figure again, 700,000 arrests for marijuana possession in 2014. When you're arrested, what do you think happens? Do they think they just put you in the back and then let you go? No, they arrest you and they take you to jail. About 90% were for possession only. And these arrests can have radiating consequences. Even spending a night or two in jail for marijuana possession can cause tremendous disruption to their lives. They can lose their jobs when they don't show up for work the next day. Or they can miss critical doctor appointments, or they can't pick up their kids from school, Piper said. This is regardless of whatever penalties they get, and even if the charges are ultimately dropped. Levine added that the high arrest rates for marijuana possession has other negative consequences, such as racial disparities and exposure to the criminal justice system. Absolutely. Indeed, when we checked with Sanders' staff, spokeswoman Warren Gunnels cited a news report of the FBI arrest statistics. As for prison time, he said that even if the numbers of people in prison for marijuana possession are relatively small, it is still more than the number of senior executives on Wall Street who went to jail for the near collapse of the economy in 2008, which is the comparison Sanders made during the debate. Our ruling is, Sanders said, we are imprisoning or giving jail sentences to young people who are smoking marijuana. Being sentenced to prison for marijuana possession by itself can happen, but it's exceedingly rare. That's according to the statistics, but I'm telling you, the statistics lie, don't they? I just told you how they lie in a number of cases. Sanders would have been on safer ground. He kept pointing out continuing high levels of arrests for marijuana possession. These can result in a night in jail and a cascade of problems for those who are arrested, but getting a prison sentence for just smoking a joint is extremely unusual. The statement contains an element of truth, but ignores critical facts that would give a different impression, so we rate it mostly false. And I disagree with you. I think he's on the right vein. I don't think you like the way he said it. Now, I told you we've got only minutes left on the air. In fact, we're going to run out right now. That so sucks. Okay, I'm going to try and squeeze them in. I told you there were other stories. Did you see the story about the helicopter that crashed? It was out in Oregon searching for fields of pot. And a helicopter crashed just to give you the, I guess I was going to get it from the They Just Don't Get It file. It is kind of funny that you would be out searching for pot in a helicopter and crash it. The pilot nor the passenger, neither were injured. They set it down from about 400 feet up in the air. It spun down into the engine failed. They're 400 feet above the ground. The engine fails, spoils down into an open field. They damaged the hell out of the copter, but the guys walked away. And then what was the other funny story? Do we have time? Are we going to squeeze it in? I got to find out where it's at. That's page 2. No, it's on the first page. I think it's on the first page. Bernie Sanders, issue 3, Colorado, legalization, South says timeline facing history of marijuana prohibition in America. That's a good article, by the way, in Extract. Check out the Extract article. Marijuana petition, helicopter used to flip marijuana smuggling raft. Oh, my God. In Texas, they used a helicopter to flip over a raft. Oh, I can't find the story. Where's it at? I'm going to find it before the end of the music. I swear to God I am. Maine being a leader, councilwoman, educators, marijuana grow, busted, Allen Park, troopers, stop vehicle, marijuana seized. Oh no, I'm not going to find it. I can't find the story. There was another funny story. We'll have to bring it to you tomorrow when we bring you another edition of The Full Melt Show. Until Friday, goodbye.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.